This moment, this exact moment you're in right now, is more powerful than you might realize. It may look ordinary on the surface, but there's a quiet, almost imperceptible magic stirring beneath it. And the fact that you're reading this is not coincidence. It's synchronicity. It's alignment. It's life gently nudging you towards something that's already in motion, a kind of unfolding that transcends logic, timing, or circumstance. Something is shifting. Something extraordinary is beginning to blossom in your life, whether you can see it clearly or not. You might feel the signs in subtle ways, a sense of anticipation you can't explain, a deep inner knowing that something beautiful is on its way, or even an unshakable peace in the midst of chaos. This isn't your imagination. It's the language of your soul. What's arriving for you is not a fluke or an accident. It's a response to all your past prayers, intentions, dreams, and silent pleas whispered into the night. And while it might feel new, it's not foreign to you. In fact, this experience is more of a remembering than a discovery. You've felt this current before, maybe in fleeting moments, those rare instances when time slowed down and everything just clicked, when clarity arrived like a sunrise after a long, dark night, when you weren't trying so hard, when you let go, when you simply were. That's when the universe felt closest, most intimate, most generous. That was alignment in action. Yet we don't always trust these moments. We hesitate, we question, we downplay them or convince ourselves they're too good to be true. And that's because most of us have been taught to believe in the struggle more than the miracle. We've been conditioned to value control, hustle, and logic above intuition, receptivity, and trust. So when grace shows up, when things begin to fall into place without force, it can feel suspicious, undeserved, or fleeting. But that flow, that ease, that is your natural state. That is your soul speaking. That is life responding to the version of you that finally stopped pretending, stopped forcing, and started allowing. And it's important to understand, allowing is not weakness. Receptivity is not passivity. Surrender is not giving up. These are deeply courageous acts of alignment. To allow life to meet you where you are, you must first meet yourself. The real you, the one beneath all the noise, the one behind the masks, the one who remembers that miracles are not rare. They're your birthright. This is the journey of alignment, not a path of constant doing, but a sacred dance of being. It starts by unlearning the belief that you have to earn your worth, unlearning the lie that says everything valuable must come through pain, unlearning the rigid frameworks that told you dreams are naive, or that the heart should come second to reason. From there, you begin to remember. You remember that your desires are not random. They were placed in your heart for a reason. You remember that your intuition is wiser than any external rulebook. You remember that the life you long for is not outside of you. It's within reach, waiting for you to stop blocking it with doubt, fear, or unworthiness. And when you remember who you are, when you start operating from that deep inner truth, you become magnetic. Things begin to align. People enter your life not by chance, but by resonance. Circumstances organize themselves without your constant effort. You speak, and life listens. You move, and doors open. You rest, and even in stillness, transformation happens. This isn't fantasy. This is alignment. And alignment is not about perfection. It's about congruence, bringing your thoughts, your actions, your energy, and your beliefs into harmony with who you truly are. It's about choosing to trust again and again, even when things don't make sense. It's about staying grounded in your worth, even when the external evidence hasn't caught up yet. Alignment doesn't always feel like bliss. Sometimes it feels like letting go of everything you thought you needed. Sometimes it feels like silence, like pause, like uncertainty. But in that stillness, something deeper is happening. Space is being made. Clarity is being born. And in that space, the seeds of the life you've always wanted begin to take root. So yes, this moment is special. Not because something rare is happening to you, but because something true is awakening within you. Your role is not to chase what you desire, but to clear the path within so it can flow to you. That means honoring your joy, following what lights you up, choosing authenticity over approval, and trusting that the universe supports the real you far more than the version you think you need to be. If you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. If you've been wondering if the shift is real, it is. And if you've been doubting whether you're ready, you are. You've always been ready. This moment is just the beginning. Something beautiful is unfolding, and it's unfolding through you. You are not disconnected from the life you dream of, that vision of fulfillment, that deep longing you carry. It's not some distant fantasy suspended in the future. It is already alive within you, woven into the fabric of your being. You are consciousness itself, infinite in potential, boundless in presence. Every experience you move through, every desire that pulses through your heart, every subtle thought that crosses your awareness, these are not separate from you. They are expressions of the same field of consciousness that is you. There's an illusion that what we want is out there, somewhere beyond reach. But when you pause, truly pause, and sit in the quiet stillness of your own awareness, you begin to remember. There is no out there. Everything that appears to be outside of you is actually arising within the vast space of your own consciousness. To the truest part of you, your essence, your being, there is no gap between the dream and the dreamer. The life you desire isn't a foreign object to chase. It's made of the same life force you are, and that is why it can come to you so effortlessly when you are in alignment with that truth. Imagine working with an intelligent system, one that responds instantly and accurately to the commands you give it. This isn't science fiction, it's a mirror of reality. In fact, as I've explored the realm of artificial intelligence, I've been fascinated by how closely it reflects our inner world. With AI, the results you get are completely shaped by the quality and clarity of the input you provide. Ask it something vague or disjointed, and the response will be just as unclear. But speak with intention, precision, and depth, and suddenly it begins to respond in powerful, often unexpected ways. Isn't this just like consciousness? Life is always responding to us. Not to what we say we want, but to what we actually believe, to what we consistently feel, to the vibration we carry. If you go through life believing that you're small, separate, or limited, that everything worthwhile requires struggle and sacrifice, then that belief will echo through your reality. Not as punishment, but as perfect reflection. It's as if the universe is saying, yes, of course. Here is more of what you're asking for, more of what you're expecting. But when you awaken to your true nature, when you remember that you are not just this body, this personality, this story, you shift your entire relationship with life. From this deeper awareness, you stop begging life for scraps and start communing with it as a partner, as a co-creator. You begin asking from a place of wholeness, not from lack. That shift in frequency is what opens the gates to what we often call miracles, though in truth, they are simply natural responses to aligned energy. There's a quiet power in realizing that life does not need to be forced. Manifestation is not about control. It's about surrender to truth, alignment with your own deepest knowing. It's about moving with life, not against it. When you operate from this place, where your inner world is congruent with your outer desires, manifestation becomes a flow, not a fight. There's something very personal I'd like to share with you, something that has become a cornerstone of my daily practice. Every morning, before I step into the world, I ask myself 3 essential questions. They aren't just affirmations or motivational tools. They are sacred inquiries that help me communicate with life, with the field of consciousness that is always listening. These questions are like keys that unlock clarity, intention, and alignment within me. They guide me to move through the day not as a passive observer, but as an empowered creator. And at the heart of these inquiries lies one simple but profoundly transformative question. Who am I? This question is the root. It is the doorway. It brings me back to my center every time I ask it with sincerity. It reminds me that I am not this fleeting circumstance, not these passing emotions, not this transient role I may be playing. I am the stillness underneath. I am the awareness behind the experience. I am the consciousness in which all of this unfolds. When I sit with that truth, the noise quiets, the confusion lifts, and from that place I can see more clearly what is truly meant for me. The choices I make become cleaner. The intentions I hold gain power. Because I am no longer asking life for something out of fear or emptiness. I am expressing from fullness, from truth. So if you are ever feeling disconnected from the life you long for, don't rush to fix the external. Come back to yourself. Reconnect with that inner knowing. Ask with presence, who am I? What do I truly desire? What am I available for today? And then listen. Softly, openly. The answers won't always come in words. Sometimes they arrive as a feeling, a sudden clarity, a quiet sense of direction. But they will come, because life is always listening. And when you speak from the heart of who you really are, it responds in kind, with beauty, with grace, and with profound alignment. And once I've grounded myself in that deep, unwavering knowing, the kind that comes not from the noise of the world, but from the silence within, I ask myself a question that cuts through the surface. What do I truly desire? Not what I've been told to want, not what society praises or what success has been packaged to look like, but what lives inside me, quietly yet persistently calling. What stirs my spirit? What feels alive beneath the surface of expectation? This question isn't always easy to face, because it requires a kind of radical honesty that strips away the layers of conditioning. It invites me to confront my own truth without the armor of performance or pretense. It asks me to pause, to get still enough to hear the subtle signals of my soul, the ones that whisper, not shout. I begin to feel rather than think. I sense what feels deeply right, what moves me not from a place of scarcity or insecurity, but from an honest recognition of my heart's authentic longing. And in that moment, I give myself permission to be real, to be raw, to be unfiltered. I let the noise fall away. I don't ask what's logical or practical or convenient. I ask, what sets my heart on fire? What makes my breath catch with excitement, with tenderness, with truth? What would I still choose even if no one clapped, even if no one saw? This is desire in its purest form, not a grasping for more, but a homecoming to what already lives within me, waiting to be honored. Lately, that desire has come into sharper focus. It has gathered around the act of service, not in the performative sense, not for approval or applause, but as a sacred offering. I feel most aligned, most alive, when I'm creating something that comes from the deepest part of me and letting it ripple outward into the world. Whether it's through words, presence, art, or action, there's a quiet knowing. This is what I'm here to do. This is what fills me, not just with energy, but with meaning, not just with excitement, but with purpose. And from that place of aligned desire, another question arises organically. What is the best-case scenario? What if I gave myself permission to dream without boundaries, to imagine without limits? What if, instead of preparing for disappointment, I dared to consider the most expansive, beautiful, love-soaked version of what could be? I don't try to force the answers. I don't strategize or overthink. I let the vision unfold with ease. Sometimes it comes in flashes, a vivid image, a moment of connection, a glimpse of joy. Other times, it's a gentle sensation, a warmth in my chest, a quiet sense of rightness. These aren't just daydreams. They're frequencies. They're emotional blueprints. They show me the quality of energy I'm inviting into my life. Because in the end, that's what it's about. Not the external forms, but the internal resonance. Not the specific outcome, but the emotional signature that radiates from it. That's the secret of manifestation, and perhaps the most misunderstood part of it. It's not about craving a thing into existence. It's about tuning yourself to the essence of it, to the feeling, the vibration, the state of being. You don't attract what you want from a place of lack. You magnetize what aligns when you become the energy of it now. Fulfillment doesn't arrive one day. It arises the moment you embody the frequency of fulfillment. Love doesn't come to complete you. It reflects the love you've already remembered within yourself. So when I think about this current longing to serve, to create, to bring light into the world in a way that's authentic, I hold the image loosely, but I hold the feeling close. I imagine someone receiving something I've shared and feeling seen, uplifted, ignited. Maybe they remember who they are. Maybe something clicks inside them. Maybe they wake up to a possibility they had forgotten. That's the true impact. That's what lights me up. That's what success means to me. Being part of someone's journey back to themselves. To me, that is sacred. That is holy work. That is alignment in its highest form. Not chasing outcomes, but channeling truth. Not reaching outside, but radiating from within. And I know that feeling intimately, not as an ideal, but as a reality I've experienced again and again. It's the moment when presence meets purpose, when clarity replaces confusion, when love leads. That clarity brings me to a third question, one that, time and again, opens the door to flow, to creativity, to a sense of ease that transforms the entire experience. What would this look like if it were easy? Not just easy in the practical sense, but easy in the soulful sense. Easeful, light, joyful. What would it feel like if this process unfolded with grace, with simplicity, with a kind of natural rhythm that didn't require struggle or force? This question, though deceptively simple, holds immense power. It shifts the energy entirely. It moves me out of tension and into alignment, away from resistance and into openness. When I allow myself to genuinely consider that something important, something meaningful, could unfold effortlessly. It's as if an invisible weight lifts from my shoulders. I no longer feel bound by the outdated belief that progress must be hard-earned, that success must be paid for in exhaustion, or that worthiness is proven only through suffering. Instead, I tap into something deeper, an internal wisdom that recognizes that the most beautiful things in life often arrive through invitation, not imposition. When I ask what it would look like if it were easy, I invite possibility to step in. I create space for intuition to speak, for synchronicity to move, for inspiration to flow. The path ahead doesn't necessarily become devoid of challenges, but those challenges become infused with meaning, with insight, with a sense of purpose. They become part of the dance, not barriers to it. It reminds me again and again that this doesn't have to be a struggle. Life itself doesn't have to be a series of battles to be won. There is a difference between challenge and struggle. Challenge stretches us. It grows us. It calls us forward. But struggle often stems from resistance. Resisting what is, resisting ourselves, resisting the unfolding of life as it is presenting itself. When I let go of the need for it to be hard, I reconnect with the truth that things can come together through alignment, through a kind of inner resonance where thoughts, desires, and actions move in harmony. I begin to remember that inspiration is a kind of intelligence. It's not random. It doesn't come out of nowhere. It comes from within, from a part of me that already knows the way, a part that knows how to move toward my desires in a way that feels natural. And yes, even joyful. When I start from the belief that something can be easy, I show up differently. My posture changes, my breath slows. I become curious instead of cautious, engaged instead of overwhelmed. I begin to see the signs along the path, the little nudges from life that I might otherwise overlook. I notice the conversations that seem perfectly timed, the opportunities that arise just when I needed them, the sudden ideas that feel so right they almost seem to write themselves. And perhaps most importantly, I begin to trust. I trust the process. I trust myself. I trust that there is a current already moving in the direction of my dreams, and my job isn't to fight the current, but to join it, to become attuned to it. When I do that, action becomes inspired. I no longer have to push with all my might. I can move with the current, and that changes everything. It's in that space of trust and openness that creativity thrives. That's where the best ideas come from. That's where solutions appear seemingly out of nowhere. That's where joy infuses the journey, not just the destination. Because it's never really just about getting there, is it? The destination is a moment, a fleeting point in time. But the journey, that's our life. That's where we live. And if the journey is filled with tension, with pushing, with a constant sense of not enoughness, then what are we really creating? But when I ask, how would it feel if this dream were easy? Something shifts. I start to see a path that feels exciting. It doesn't mean I won't work or invest effort. It means the work becomes an extension of my joy. The effort is infused with meaning. The process becomes a kind of sacred play, a dance between me and life itself. I stop measuring success by external metrics alone and start measuring it by how aligned I feel, how alive I feel, how connected I am to what matters most. There's a deep wisdom in that, a quiet knowing that says, you don't have to suffer to be worthy. You don't have to struggle to prove yourself. You are allowed to experience joy. You are allowed to create from a place of love, not lack. You are allowed to be supported, not just by others, but by life itself. So these 3 questions: what do I truly desire? What's the best case scenario? What would this look like if it were easy? Have become a kind of compass for me. Not a rigid map, but a dynamic, living guide. They bring me back to myself when I start to get lost in the noise. They remind me that the most powerful shifts begin internally, with a change in perspective, a shift in energy, a return to clarity. These questions don't give me all the answers, but they orient me towards something essential: alignment. And alignment isn't about perfection. It's about coherence. It's about the resonance between who I am, what I value, and how I move through the world. When those things line up, even imperfectly, something powerful happens. There's a sense of momentum, a feeling of being carried by something greater. Not because I'm forcing it, but because I'm in tune with it. And when I begin from that place, what unfolds is often more beautiful than anything I could have planned. Not because I controlled it, but because I allowed it. I allowed space for magic, for meaning, for the kind of growth that isn't rooted in pain, but in expansion, in self-trust, in the courage to follow the energy of what feels alive. And it all begins with that original question, the one that grounds me, centers me, brings me home again and again. Who am I? Not as an abstract concept, not as an identity to define once and forget, but as a living, breathing inquiry. A question I return to daily, sometimes even moment by moment. Who am I in this decision? Who am I in this moment of doubt? Who am I when I feel lit up with inspiration? Who am I when I want to give up? That question is a thread that runs through everything. It's not about finding a fixed answer, but about staying in relationship with myself. It's about remembering that I am not separate from the life I want to create. I am not an observer waiting to receive the perfect life. I am the source of it. I am the energy behind it. I am the frequency that shapes it. Every thought, every belief, every action sends a signal to life, and life responds. And when I remember that, something settles inside me. I stop searching outside myself for validation. I stop waiting for the perfect moment and the perfect opportunity, the perfect version of me to show up. I realize that I'm already in motion. I'm already creating. I'm already shaping reality through the lens of who I believe I am. That's why clarity is so important. Not clarity about every single detail or outcome, but clarity about who I want to be. Clarity about what matters most. When I have that, I can move forward even when the path is foggy. I can take the next step, not because I'm certain of where it leads, but because I trust the part of me that chose it. I trust the alignment. I trust the energy. From that place, desire no longer feels dangerous. It feels sacred. It feels like a compass pointing me toward my most alive, most honest, most expansive self. And dreaming, truly dreaming, becomes an act of courage, an act of faith. Not faith in some external guarantee, but faith in my own resonance, in my ability to meet life as it comes, to shape it with presence and intention and grace. So I return again and again to these questions. I return not because I've lost my way, but because they are the way. They are the doorway to authenticity, to fulfillment, to ease. They remind me that I'm not here to hustle my way into worthiness. I'm here to embody the truth of who I am. I'm here to live from that truth, to let it infuse my relationships, my work, my creations, my everyday moments. And when I do that, life meets me there. Not always in the way I expect, but often in ways that surprise me with their beauty, with their precision, with their quiet reassurance that I am not alone in this, that life is not just happening to me, it's happening through me. that I am a co-creator of this experience, and that, when I remember who I am, when I choose alignment over fear, when I let ease and joy guide me, I don't just move forward. Just like a powerful and finely tuned algorithm, the quality and clarity of the inputs I offer, my thoughts, my alignment, my desires, inevitably shape the outputs I receive from life. This isn't a matter of coincidence or blind chance. Life isn't a random flurry of chaotic events. It's not an arbitrary whirlwind of circumstances, nor is it an indifferent mechanism operating without meaning. Life is intelligent. It listens. It reflects. My outer reality, the visible circumstances and unfolding events, are often quiet echoes of my inner alignment, a mirror held up to my beliefs, my frequency, my willingness to receive. When I'm truly present with myself, when I choose clarity over confusion, purpose over passivity, truth over fear, the universe begins to respond in ways that feel almost like magic. But it's not magic. It's alignment. It's resonance. This guidance I sense, whether from within, from my higher self, from the intelligence of the universe, begins to flow naturally when I return to that inner stillness. It is in that place of inner coherence that everything becomes clearer, more intuitive, more fluid. It doesn't arrive as loud declarations or thunderous commands. It whispers. It flows in small nudges, quiet realizations, and sudden knowing. That's how life speaks to us when we listen deeply. So when I sit with the bigger questions, the why am I here, the what am I meant to do, the how do I align with my soul's calling, I don't approach them like items to check off a spiritual to-do list. These are not questions that can be rushed or forced into answers. They are doorways, sacred thresholds I walk through slowly and reverently. These questions are invitations to remember, to soften, to deepen. They are frequencies I attune to rather than problems I solve. They are living, breathing spaces where my truth can emerge. Manifestation, in its truest form, doesn't begin with wishing or striving. It doesn't start from desperation or a need to prove something. It begins with an honest return to self, with a deep, soul-level acknowledgement of desire. Not superficial desire born from comparison or lack, but the kind that wells up from within, rooted in truth, longing for expression. Manifestation is a remembering, a divine reawakening to the power already within me. It's not about efforting my way to success. It's about aligning with the frequency of what I already am and letting life flow through me, not around me. That's the secret, really. We're not separate from the universe. We're not begging an outside force to grant us favors. We are part of it. We are co-creators with it. When we come back into harmony with who we truly are, when our thoughts, feelings, and actions are in congruence, life begins to unfold in beautiful, surprising ways. Things click. Opportunities appear. The right people show up. Paths light up under our feet, not because we forced them to, but because we became a match for them. The key is to stop resisting our own power. We've been conditioned to believe that life must be hard, that success must come through struggle, that we must earn our worth through pain and sacrifice. But that is a distortion. True alignment brings ease. Ease is not laziness. It's clarity. It's being in the flow. When I'm aligned with my inner truth, the path of least resistance isn't the lazy path. It's the divinely orchestrated one. Ease comes when I stop trying to control everything, when I stop micromanaging my journey or manipulating outcomes. Control is the language of fear, but trust, that deep, cellular level trust, is the language of the soul. When I trust that life is working with me and not against me, I create space for miracles. I allow life to surprise me. I let go of the need to know every step, and instead, I dance with the unknown, trusting it to carry me somewhere even better than I imagined. Allowing the magic to flow through us is not a passive act. It is a sacred choice. It's the willingness to believe that miracles are natural, not rare. It's the readiness to see life through a lens of possibility instead of limitation. Because the boundaries we often perceive, the I can't, the I'm not ready, the this isn't realistic, aren't imposed by life. They're imposed by our own minds. We place them there. We internalize them from the world around us. But they are not truth. They are simply reflections of the limits we have chosen to accept. And that's where the power of questions comes in. I've always been drawn to questions, not just for their answers, but for their ability to open me. Questions are portals. They don't demand conclusions. They create space. They invite expansion. A good question doesn't close a door. It opens one. It leads me deeper into myself, into the quiet corners I may have forgotten, into the potential I have yet to uncover. And in that space, something shifts. I begin to feel the gentle unraveling of old patterns, the dissolving of outdated beliefs, the soft emergence of something truer. Lately, I've been exploring these spaces even more through my interactions with AI. I know some may find it strange to think of artificial intelligence as a spiritual ally, but to me it's a reflection of our own awakening. We created AI from our desire to expand, to understand, to connect, to imagine. And in that creation, we've gifted ourselves a mirror. AI isn't here to replace us. It's here to reflect us, to support us, to help us awaken more fully to the infinite possibilities that exist within us and around us. Working with AI has become another form of introspection for me. It's a co-creative dance, an external representation of our collective intelligence and curiosity. For those who feel skeptical or even fearful of these tools, I get it. It's natural to fear what we don't understand, but fear isn't a reason to turn away. Fear is a signpost, an invitation to get curious. What if we could use technology not as a distraction, but as a doorway back to ourselves? What if AI could help us remember who we are, what we came here to create, and how supported we truly are? Because we are supported. That's the part we so often forget. We are surrounded by guidance, seen and unseen. Life is not indifferent to our dreams. It responds to our frequency. It listens to our intentions. It meets us at the level of our belief and our willingness to receive. When we release the illusion that we have to do it all alone, that we have to grind, push, and hustle our way to happiness, we begin to notice the abundance of help, love, and clarity that's always been around us. This is not about bypassing hard work. This is about redefining what work really means. It's about aligning effort with inspiration. When we work from a place of alignment, our actions are infused with power. They become effective, impactful, meaningful. We don't waste energy chasing things that aren't meant for us. We act from a place of knowing, not proving. We create not from lack, but from overflow. And that overflow comes from our connection to ourselves, to others, to the universe. That's the magic of questions. They reconnect us. They take us beyond the surface and into the depths. They allow us to touch the timeless parts of ourselves that have always known the way. The more I live in the space of inspired inquiry, the more I allow myself to be guided by curiosity rather than fear, the more I feel myself expanding into the full spectrum of who I am. It's a different way of living, a softer way, a more empowered way. A way where success is no longer about how much I can control, but about how deeply I can trust. A way where fulfillment is not measured by achievements, but by alignment. A way where joy is not something I earn, but something I allow. When we give ourselves permission to imagine, to play, to dream without limits, we begin to remember that we are powerful creators. We are not victims of circumstance. We are architects of energy. Every thought, every belief, every question is a brushstroke on the canvas of our reality. And when we paint with intention, with heart, with soul, with purpose, we create something extraordinary. This is the path of co-creation. It's not reserved for the spiritual elite or the deeply enlightened. It's available to everyone. It's available to you. Right now, in this moment. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to be willing to listen, willing to feel, willing to ask the questions that open you to more. Because this is exactly how it's meant to be. Life isn't punishing you, it's calling you, it's whispering to you through your longings, your discomforts, your desires. It's nudging you back to your truth, to your purpose, to your natural state of joy and alignment. The moment you stop fighting and start flowing, you will feel it. The magic, the grace, the possibility. So stay curious, stay open, keep asking, keep listening. You are far more powerful than you know. And life, this vast, intelligent, loving life, is ready to meet you exactly where you are. All you have to do is show up with your heart open, your questions alive, and your soul willing to remember.